Hi, everybody. Welcome to Women of FHSS. I am Lindsay Blau. I'm an academic advisor for the Liberal Arts Advisement and Careers Office. Today, joining us, we have a fellow BYU FHSS alumni, Sara Gordon. Sara, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, as you mentioned, I graduated from BYU in 2015 with a degree in psychology. And in my first job out of school, I started working at Qualtrics in a sales position, later transferred to a more operational role. And now I'm still at Qualtrics working as what we call a solution architect. And what that means is that I get to work with I partner with our sales reps to help our clients solve their research problems they might have, whether they have a technical problem that's preventing them from doing their research, or they need help with their methodology or just guidance with reporting and things like that. So I work with our engineering teams and our research experts to help them with solutions. And right now I'm expecting my first daughter. We're so excited. She's going to come in March. And just a little bit more about me is that I love anything that takes me outdoors, especially love things that challenge me. I like backpacking, even though it's really tough. I just love that we get to go and enjoy amazing scenery and enjoy the peaceful outdoors and see the stars at night. Just love everything about it. So
that is so great. Yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations on your baby. That is amazing. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, very excited. Looking forward to it.
So some things that my students and I talk about in our office is how to be prepared. I mean, it seems to me like psychology to sales may not be necessarily what people think they're going to do after they received a psychology degree. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. Looking back, like what have you seen you gained from that experience of getting your degree into the kind of position that you have now?
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on that because there's a lot of things that I wish I could tell my undergrad self, because I'll be honest with you, when I was, the reason why I originally chose psychology is I was 100% wanted to be a social worker. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I started my second to last semester of school. My internship finally came around. I did my internship at the Division of Child and Family Services. I was shadowing social workers. And I came to the realization that this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not actually what I want to do anymore. And I had a little bit of a moment where I realized I have a degree in psychology. What am I going to do if I don't want to, if the original plans that I had aren't what I want to do anymore? So I decided to just try to apply to companies, and my husband gave me great advice to find a company that I was interested in, maybe not worry so much about the role itself, but a company that I was passionate about or interested in working at. And Qualtrics was one of those companies on my list. And so we prepped for a few hours, practiced a lot to make sure that I could really nail the interview. And fortunately, I got the job and got the job in sales. It was not my first choice it was actually a very terrible grind, and it was a really rough time, but I put in the work. I was noticed for my efforts, and I was able to pivot into a different role that was better suited for my interests. And so I think the takeaway from that is that careers are not always predictable, and they're not linear. And you don't have to find the perfect job for your major. You don't have to major in something particular. I think the biggest thing to know is that you just need to maybe find a company that you're interested in, find a culture that you're interested in, an industry that sparks your interest, and then start at the bottom and work really hard, and you'll be noticed for your efforts.
I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like that's the conversation I have with students all the time when they come and talk to me. I know this wasn't part of the original questions that I sent you, but I'm curious to know, how were you able to articulate what you learned in your program into something that Qualtrics saw in you as being qualified for that entry-level position? Like, what were some techniques that you used? How were you able to find your value and what you learned and translate that into a job that wasn't related to psychology.
That's great. I think a big part of it, I'll credit a lot of it to just practicing giving specific answers in an interview. So instead of just saying, oh, my strengths are that I'm hardworking and I know that because I got good grades. Like my husband and I really worked, he forced me to really think about a specific example, a specific story for every type of question we might run across. And then he also had me practice selling something to him. He said, okay, sell this product to me, because we knew we were interviewing for a sales position. So we did a lot of things like that, and actually came up in the interview. They asked me to sell them Qualtrics, and so I was glad that I prepared for that. So I do think that you have a lot of skills that you're not, like, you might not be aware of the skills that you've gained while you've been in your undergrad. And I think that as you practice interviewing and practice coming up with stories to tell about yourself, you'll realize, okay, I do have a subset of skills that could help me in any type of job I can apply them to a wide variety of things. So
thank you so much for answering that question out of the blue. I really appreciate it. That is something that I eat, breathe, and sleep every day, all day. And so I'm really glad to hear that that's what worked for you, that you were able to make those connections. Kind of taking a step back, I was wondering if you could tell us, what was the organizational culture like 10 years ago for women and working mothers? And additionally, what does your company do to make an effort in supporting your personal and professional goals?
Yeah, that's great. I don't know exactly what it was like 10 years ago, but 6 years ago, I can tell you that the senior leadership at Qualtrics, we might have had one female senior leadership position open or available. And we didn't really have a lot of women in leadership roles throughout the company, and they realized that was a big problem. So they decided, we've got to do something, we've got to start somewhere. So they started creating these, they called it the Women in Leadership Initiative, and created these discussion groups for women to get together and collaborate with one another and collaborate with other senior leaders to provide mentorship for women that were interested, and just helping women with their career goals so that they could reach them. And I think one of the big pieces of feedback they received was, hey, if you want women to stay at Qualtrics and promote into these leadership positions, you need to have better policies for working moms. And so over time, the maternity leave program has gone from not very good one to, I think it's a pretty great one now, that they have 3 months of paid leave, a month of part-time ramping back up, but you're still paid full-time, which is great. And then they also have a paternity leave program now, which is great. So I think showing that they're supporting both mothers and fathers when they have a new child is great. And I can say that my manager and the leadership now are very supportive, that now that I'm getting ready to go on maternity leave, they're very supportive of whatever options I might want to look at when I'm trying to come back to work, to see if, because they want me to be able to stay. So if it's part-time, if it's full-time, they're willing to work with you. So it's really great.
That's fantastic, because I don't know that a lot of these organizations that people are working in have that kind of support system. And it does make you want to stay because you're feeling taken care of.
Yes.
You know, I think that that's a phenomenal thing that this organization has done, and that it's possible. It's possible to have children and to go back to work at an organization where you feel valued, and where you know that what you're bringing forth is something that someone wants to continue to have. So I think that that's amazing. And I like how you said, kind of combining the conversation from a second ago and this conversation, is when you start at the bottom and you're showing your effort, you work your way into a spot where people want you to come back, right? And because they know that you are a hardworking individual and that you have hard work ethic. So I think that that's fantastic for our students to understand about the workplace and how that works. That's great.
So don't give up hope. Look for companies that will support you, because they exist. They are out there.
That's right.
Hard to find, but they are there.
Yes, amen to that. So looking back at, what were some of the benefits that you've received, either personally, professionally, or otherwise, from your working experiences?
I definitely think that work can push you in ways that other things might not be able to push you beyond your limits. And so for me particularly, I always struggled with confidence and assertiveness. And I think that first role that I had where I had to make cold calls every day, that forced me out of, there was no part of that job that was in my comfort zone. Everything was pushing me beyond my limits. And looking back on it, I realized that it gave me a lot of confidence and the ability to be assertive that I don't think I would have gained had I not been in a job and been in this particular role. And not only has it helped me in my current job, because now I'm on client calls all the time and it's my favorite part of the job, but I hope that it will help me when I'm a mom, that I can teach my daughter how to be confident, and that I can, I think it helped me when I was the primary president in my ward. It helped me to be assertive when I needed to make changes happen, and to be confident when I was up there in front of a lot of people. And I hope that it can also make me just a better person with the people I interact with. So I think for me specifically, it was gaining confidence, but I think a career in general can give you attributes and skills that might be unattainable in another way. So
that's so great. And I like how you brought that into not only how it's helped you grow in your profession, but it's helping you grow in ways that you never anticipated in your calling and in your future motherhood role as well. I think that's amazing. Well, as we wrap up, I wanted to know, is there anything that you feel would empower our women students to pursue whatever they choose post-graduation, whether it's fulfilling grad school or stay-at-home possibilities, part-time or full-time employment? Anything else, any words of wisdom?
yeah, and hopefully this comes across well, but when I first started at Qualtrics, again, with that women in leadership discussion groups that we talked about, one of the books that we read was Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. And I remember one of her chapters, she talked about how women in particular tend to struggle with living in the moment. We're always living in the what if scenarios. Like, well, what if my husband graduates from grad school and we have to move away? What if I have a child? What will my career look like? And she said, until those things happen, don't worry about it. Live in the now, and lean in and put in all of your effort and all of your passion into whatever you're doing, whether it's grad school or part-time work or whatever it might be. Because if you do that, I just want to share in my story in particular, I knew that I started at Qualtrics, and I knew that in 2 years' time, my husband would be graduating from grad school, so we'd be relocating. That was pretty much a guarantee that I most likely wouldn't be able to work at Qualtrics. And after reading that chapter, I realized, well, I have two choices. I can say, I'll just kind of, clock in at 8, clock out at 5, and just kind of put in my day. Or I can choose to give it my all and give it all of my effort, even though I know I might not be here for very long. So I decided that I wanted to give it my all and follow Sheryl's advice. And when the time came that my husband got a job with Toyota that meant we were going to relocate to Texas, I approached my manager and I said, look, I'd love to continue working at Qualtrics. Is there any way we can make this happen? And it was against company policy to really work remotely from your teams. But since I had been working late hours, the sales reps that I worked with were advocating to the senior leaders saying, you have to let her stay. We need her. She's so passionate. She loves her job. And so I give a lot of credit to the fact that I decided to not live in the what if moments and to just really give it my all, even though I didn't know what was going to happen in 2 years' time. And they allowed me to stay, and it was great. And so I just encourage people to stop dwelling on the what ifs, because you can't really control when those are going to happen, and just lean in all the way in whatever you're pursuing at the time.
I love that. And I think you're right. I think the what if scenarios prevent us sometimes a lot from gaining access to more information to help us make informed decisions. Right? So I love how you talked about this idea of ask, because I think that that's something that we don't do very well. And I don't know if it's a woman thing or if it's an undergraduate thing. I'm not sure what it is, but this idea of asking. And, you know, I have a lot of students that are like, well, if they accept me at this job here, then all of these are the things that I need to consider. And if they accept me at this grad school here, and I'm like, how about you get accepted first? And then we'll start talking about after, right? So I love that, you know, that we live in the what if. And that goes probably too toward when you decide to have a family and you have questions about, well, am I coming back after and am I not? You know, I think maybe that's something that you've thought about as well. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but is there anything that, are you still living by that mantra of like, you don't need to make a decision until you need to make a decision? Or how has that looked like for you?
Yeah, and I guess maybe something I should say as well is that I think that the more effort and the more you lean in, the more obviously you'll be recognized at your company and given responsibilities, and the more invaluable you'll become. And then people will want you to stay and they'll be willing to work with you and be flexible with you. So I did want to make that point that the more you work hard and lean in, the more flexibility you'll have. Because I think a lot of people don't connect those two together. They sometimes think, well, if I take on all these responsibilities when I have a kid, I won't be able to keep doing those things. And for me, it's been, my manager knows that I'm very valuable. And so he's saying, hey, when you come back from maternity leave, whatever will work for you, let's make it happen because I want you to stay. And so, yeah, I do think that it's, yeah, I am trying to still live by that mantra of just putting my all in whatever I'm passionate about. And someday it might not be a career, you know, maybe 10 years down the road, I'll decide that I want to lean into something else. But for right now, I'm still very much enjoying leaning into my job and putting my passion there. So, yeah.
That's so great. I had a question about passion, actually. So I have some people on some levels that say passion is too strong of a word to use for an undergrad experience, right? We always say as career advisors, go for your passion. And I have some colleagues that'll say they don't know what they're passionate about yet, right? So I think it's interesting you phrased it in a different way. You're leaning into your passion. Did you find that it was something that you were passionate about right away, or did it have to earn that title?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. I think most of my passions in life, I haven't really started out with this passion. I'm like, oh, I love all these things. I think passions are created by, like, the more effort you put into something, the better you become at it. And the more you like doing it. And then all of a sudden you're like, I really love doing this because I'm good at it. I know a lot about it. And it's because of that effort that you've put in. I'm not saying that will happen all the time when you put in effort, but you'll definitely, I think the more you lean in, the more you'll find out quickly, if you're interested in it, and then you can course correct and decide to do something different, or you'll decide, wow, I really enjoyed this. So,
well, that sounds like your experience. You know, you said at first it was a grind, but then it evolved into something different for you, in which now you love going to work all the time, and it's something that's fulfilling for you. So that's really great. Thank you for that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our students as they're navigating what post-graduation looks like for them?
I would just probably reiterate, like, to not stress what your major is so much as it is what skills you're developing within your major, and actually, okay, now that you're majoring in something, what skills can you build to be good at networking and interviewing with people? I think those are the top two skills that I didn't have when I was graduating. So, and I wish I would have.
Yes, thank you for that. Shameless plug. All of you in FHSS have access to advisors and also career directors. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that. Continue to search the websites for that information. Okay, shameless plug over. Well, thank you so much, Sara, for sharing your experience and sharing what's possible for our students. That's so important, I think, especially when it comes to making decisions about major and making decisions about what to do after. And it sounds like you have a really great partner in your husband who's helped you to get to where you are. And that partnership has been really crucial in even deciding what to do with your future family. So that's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too.